Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Access.
Do it live.
Wired Access.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Welcome to Wired Axcess Podcast, where I'm your host, DJ Kate Dub Omaha. We appreciate those who like, follow, share all of the stuff that we know that we need for social media to get our stories out to the next athlete, the next person, because we share the stories of everybody in different parts of their life. Today, I have to my left, I call him J Buck, but it's Jared Buckley, who is, you said, a Twitter ad CEO?
Pretty much, yeah.
But what I love about you is the adventure that I've seen you grow into who you are. And I say that because sports has taught you a lot as far as in life, just as far as a team matters. The people you surround yourself with are different than what you grew up with because you want to change who you are today. And I only say that because I watched some of your story and some of your posting, and just seeing how the atmosphere that J Buck was around is not the J Buck that I know. But I also know that you've had a business that was wrapped around sports. When I say that, you had the collectibles that you were dealing with that. So I just want to share your story because I feel some people get so trapped up and I have to make it in sports that they forget that there's life beyond sports. So that's why I welcome you to the show. Remember, we're out there doing also the Wired Access plug and play player of the game. So if you see us out there, we'll have that chain, or at least me, not J Buck, but tune in and let's go. Man, you used to coach football, you used to play football for the Titans locally, you used to help everybody out. Man, crazy journey. Is this where you thought you'd be?
Definitely not. It's been quite a journey. I appreciate you for having me. That was a pretty beautiful introduction there, so I appreciate that.
So when you think of sports, just sports in general, what do you think your key things that you took away through your life that has helped you create who J Buck is today?
To me, I think relationships is a huge aspect in anything you do in life. I think really there's nothing that compares to that than sports. Organized sports, whether you're playing, whether you're coaching, you really don't get that same camaraderie anywhere else other than sports. So I'd say the relationships is one aspect, and then two, the competition. It's not always competing with the team that you're playing against. A lot of times it's competing with yourself. How can I be the best me? I think that's really carried over for me in the business aspect of how can I be the best me and move forward.
Well, and when you think of helping you be the best you were a quarterback as you grew up. How important do you think knowing the leadership that you had to have to be a quarterback at any level, right? It could be little league. It could, all the 11 players are relying on what you do. How do you think that kind of also helped who you are today?
I think the leadership role in sports, whether you're a captain, regardless of the position, but as quarterback, a lot of that comes down to getting people to buy in. You know, if you want to run a business, you have to get people to buy in. You have to get people to believe in what you're doing, whether it's employees, whether it's customers, prospects, whoever it is. So I think getting people to buy in, but two, the other aspect I think is building relationships and getting to know and understand people from different backgrounds. You know, one thing that's beautiful about football is there's a lot of guys on the team. You know, sometimes in basketball, you might have 10 or 12. And a lot of times they're a lot of the same kids because you've been playing sports all your life because everybody is the same, you know, height, weight, speed, and body and build. When you get to football, a lot of those kids play a bunch of other sports that maybe you didn't, or maybe they're band kids. You get a wide variety of kids. And so I think for me, playing quarterback and being in that leadership role is you get to build those relationships and see people from different perspectives. And when you get to do that, I think it really can help you as a leader become more well-rounded to, move forward.
And when you think of just high school and you think of activities, was there any other activities that you feel, if you look back to freshman J Buck and go, I wish I could have done this activity, what was one thing that you wish you did? And what was one thing that you did beyond sports that might have influenced who you are today?
It's a good question. That makes me think. One thing that I think would have been maybe fun to do was just do maybe something outside of sports, because really what I did was sports. Junior high, I did some like student council, some different leadership stuff, leadership academy and stuff like that. I did that to kind of carry on my last point about the beauty of football, of getting to know and be around other kids, was to be able to do something maybe outside of sports. But at that time I was so focused on sports, and it's consumed so much of my life, played 3 sports. So was always doing something. So I like to look back on no regrets. The one thing that I'm definitely glad I did was I was debating on playing basketball my freshman year, and the football coach actually convinced me to do it, and I'm glad that I did. So that was one thing that I wasn't going to do that I did, that I'm very glad I did.
See, and you see nowadays, and of course you coached the junior Titans, and then you went and was still coaching at the high school. How much do you help influence some of those kids that you remember and now you see them? I mean, shoot, Junior just graduated, the class that you started coaching football with. Yeah. That class graduated. I mean, look at Bennett Steele going to K-State, doing like, how do you feel that your influence actually got these kids a little, because you were closer to their age, they're able to relate to you better than dads like myself?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting perspective, but it was a cool perspective. I saw a Junior at the game. I told him I hardly recognize his hair's so long now. Threw me off. It's like, man, but he looks grown now. So it's cool to see the kids progress. Some of those kids, my freshman year, I started coaching Junior Titans, and the kids were 8. Now those kids are like, through college, which is pretty nuts to say, because it makes me feel old, and I'm not that old.
No, you're not.
But the relationships is a cool aspect. You mentioned Bennett. I texted Bennett few days ago, and just back and forth to see how he was doing, kind of brought up a memory. So that aspect of building relationships is really cool, because I look back at when I was playing, those relationships that I still have with coaches now. There's guys that were coaches of mine that I still talk to, somewhat frequently, and call them, hang out with them, where now instead of just coaches, they've become friends. So that aspect of being so quick to go from player to coach, I really feel like helped me understand where these kids were at.
Now, you see nowadays, a lot of kids sometimes freshman year go to one sport. There's a lot more forcing that way, whether it's AAU basketball, whether it's 7v7 football, whether it's, I share them all the time, the Nebraska Prospects baseball. I mean, they're doing travel all the way through fall. Does this hurt or hinder to where we don't see some athletes that could really star in another role? And I say this because, I've talked to Eric Strickland. He played basketball, NBA for many years, but people don't understand he was actually a better football player, but he knew the longevity of basketball. And that's why he went to basketball. Like, those are mind-setting things that, one, either you're chasing something that you might not obtain, or you're cutting yourself loose where you don't get to experience, like you said, the joy of playing all 3 sports.
It's a great question. I think the reason people specialize is because they want the scholarship. They want to go play D1, whatever it is. Another thing I want to throw in there, I think a lot of people sleep on some of those lower levels, even the NAIA schools. Like, there's a lot of good athletes that play there. But with that, the aspect of multi-sport, I really think it's beneficial. Everybody wants to go play at that next level, but the reality is, like, by the time you get to that level, or once you get there, there's a lot of kids that don't make it through all 4 years. So I would love to see more kids not specialize, because the experiences that they get playing multiple sports, they're going to meet so many more people. They're probably going to have more fun than just doing one sport all the time. So that's kind of what I would say. I think there's a lot of benefits. A lot of college coaches like to see multi-sport athletes, builds different muscle groups, kind of gets you not doing the same thing all the time. I always felt like at the end of football season, I was ready for basketball. End of basketball, I was ready for baseball. Jameis Winston, won a Heisman Trophy at Florida State, All-American pitcher, I think, at Florida State as well. And he always talked about when football season was done, he was ready to go play baseball. So I think that aspect of not getting burnt out from your sport matters a lot too.
Do you feel like we might miss seeing kids at that next level because of the burnout, because of I know personally a couple football players that have stopped after high school just because you could tell that they were burnt out. They didn't want that extra but they worked hard all the way up until year 4, and then it came to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even beyond or before the college level, we see it at the high school level. I saw it even just with coaching freshmen where, kids in the summer, freshman, sophomore, eighth grade year, they'd be playing baseball all the time. And then by the time they got to their junior year, they were like, you know what, I don't actually like this as much, or they were burnt out, or maybe they weren't quite as good as they thought they were, and they get cut. And then it's like, I spent all that time focusing on baseball when I could have been focusing on basketball, and maybe I would have made the team, the basketball team there.
So it goes back to exactly what you said. No regrets, right? Don't want to have them. If you think of after high school, what was your thoughts of what you were going to do, and what did you do?
So after high school, I decided I wasn't going to go to college, some medical stuff. It just didn't make sense. And for me, it was, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Wasn't sure how, wasn't sure what that was going to look like, but I was going to figure it out as I went. And so that first year after high school, I was just going to trade stocks. And what I realized was it's a lot easier to make money with stocks when you have more money to invest. My first day trade, I made I think I invested like $30 and made 36, and I was all excited because I made like six, it was like whatever.
$6.
It was
Let's
like,
go, baby.
I was focused on the percentage. It was like, man, if I
Yes.
could do this percentage, just keep doing it on big money. It's like, well, I made $6, So quickly I realized I needed to figure some things out to make more income. Started working as the in-school suspension director at the high school, which was also interesting perspective, being 19 and kind of telling 18-year-olds what to do.
And thinking, Papio South has ISS, but it's not like other schools ISS. I'm not saying you don't have troublemakers. You probably do, right? But it's most definitely not like an Omaha North, Omaha South ISS.
It was pretty calm. But it was great because it allowed me to basically, kids work on homework. I sit there on a computer, and as long as the kid's doing what he's supposed to be doing, I was working on other side projects. So I tried about everything under the sun you can think of that a 19-year-old can legally try and do for money. A lot of it didn't work out. Some of it worked a little better than others. I was walking dogs, just trying everything I could. And the first thing that kind of stuck was the investing stuff was doing okay. But again, it was the aspect of I need more money to put in. And first thing that kind of stuck was selling the sports memorabilia, the autographed items from athletes. I scaled that up organically through Facebook. And then from there, that's got out of that, sold that. And after I was...
Well, before we get to that next part, okay, because that's a very interesting thing. Are you meeting the people, or were you just finding the items through, and obviously you don't have to go in far detail, but I think it goes back to even more the relationships. Because you were an athlete, because you had connections, it helps you get more connections in that aspect. Because I could tell you, out of the best part that I've done so far with Wired Axcess is if you act like you're supposed to be there, everybody treats you like you're supposed to be there. And hence how I was able to get a picture with the Wired Axcess plug and play chain with Dylan Raiola. It wasn't like it was something I begged for or I even went for. I waited and just talked to him like a human being. And then all of a sudden, he asked for something for me, a picture of him giving to Crawford his jersey. He was like, anybody got it? I said, I do. He goes, can I send it to myself? I said, yeah. Takes it, puts it in, sends it to himself, swipes it, so it's deleted. I'm not mad. I understand. I wouldn't want anybody's phone to have my number if I don't know you. That's when I asked him, hey, man, since you had that, here's what I got in my bag. I hadn't even shown a single soul. So I'm sitting here about to show someone that everybody is looking up to, but it was right place, right time. I acted like I felt like I needed to be there. How important is that to what you were looking to do?
I think right place, right time's really important, but I think in those circumstances, you kind of create your own luck. You put yourself in those positions because one, you're prepared for it, and when that moment comes, you capitalize on it. So I think that's kind of what I'd attribute, what you're talking to. And I think in some ways that's what I was doing is you create your own luck by working hard and just keep trying to figure things out, and eventually things start to fall into place. But I got out of that business, so I'm not afraid to give away the trade secrets behind it either, because different area now. But that's what I'd say.
How important was that to you to see the success and to who you are today?
I think seeing success after seeing a lot of failure is important because it keeps you going. It's hard to keep going. If you look at, the track record of any startups, whether it's like a tech startup or whether it's any kind of
Lawns,
business.
anything. I mean, people tell me all the time, I'm on year 8, man, and I'm still
Good for you,
surviving.
man.
But and I it took a CPA to really lay it down for me. And what I mean by that is I'm just like you. I didn't go to high school. I don't know if your parents invested in you as far as had a fund for you or any money, but I started a business with nothing but me, $1,000 mower, and just grinded to where I got, stand on mowers, top of the line, do everything that I need to do. But it didn't just happen like this. And then I got disappointed in myself because I'm sitting there going, man, why am I missing some money sometimes? It's because I'm reinvesting in myself. Every time something breaks, I try to fix it instead of just getting new. And I don't have someone that gave me a startup fund of $100,000 or someone passed away in my family and I got all this money. It's me just reinvesting. So when I thought of it that way, it kind of opened my eyes and goes, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm doing, because at first you feel like you're not doing enough, you know. And when you think of your first company that had some success, you're still reinvesting in yourself every moment, whether it is the funds going towards your trading, I mean, you thought of that part of it.
Yeah, it definitely. And I didn't start with, my parents have been awesome. I've been blessed in a lot of ways, but I have not received a big pension fund or anything like that. But I think starting, when you're starting from nothing, you got to figure out how to create. You got to figure out how to create for yourself, whatever it is. And so it makes it a lot harder to start, but I also think it teaches you those steps of going, from zero to something. So I think that's really important as you begin.
So you get out of the cards or the memorabilia. What's next? And what makes you even decide to get out? What is that one point that goes, it's time?
Well, that second part's a great question, because I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, anybody in business, and it doesn't even have to be business, but just in life, you do something for so long and you kind of feel stuck, and then you just keep going in it. But your purpose is different, and it's, what it was at one time is not anymore. And so I think when you realize that point, you got to figure out a way to get out. And for me, kind of what it came to is, I had these big goals, have these big visions, and I was making money and I was growing. But in order to continue to scale that business, I felt like the time it would take to scale that, if I use that time elsewhere, it would be a higher return. And so that's when I started looking to get out. Took quite a while to get out. I say quite a while, but it was like 3 or 4 months. So in the grand scheme, not that big, but it felt like forever because I was done. I was tired of, packaging and tape and boxes and shipping and all
See,
that.
it's funny because you're saying this, and I could tell you, I remember back in the day, one of my first business was a PayPal, eBay business. I mean, I sold car parts, I would package them up. People don't understand, like, you have to not only package them up, wrap them up, take them to the airport, because that's the cheapest, quickest route at late at night, because you're like, I've been working all day. Ooh, there's no mail place open. So you have to go down by the airport. And then you look at the returns and you're like, is this the return that I was looking for? Sometimes yes. Other times you're like, it just ain't enough. And it's not that it's not enough to get us where we are. It's not enough to get us to that next step.
Yeah. I mean, the eBay stuff, and that's kind of what I was doing just through Facebook. It's really a grind. It's really a hustle. And you mentioned am I making enough? Like, sometimes the percentages were awesome. I'd make, 300-400% on one item. But, again, if you only buy the item for, $10 or so and you make 50, to really actually make money, you got to be doing a lot of scale. So for me, that's where I go back to continue to do scale, time aspect. And that's why I got out. So I did that, sold that business. At that time, I'd left that job. So I sold the business August 21. I left the job December 2020. And I spent 2 weeks doing absolutely nothing. And I was like, no job, no business. This is awesome. I'm just going to hang out and,
A hustle until reality, but I got you.
Check the stocks every once in a while and just enjoy life. And I spent 2 weeks doing that, and I was miserable. And I was like, life has got to be more than this. I didn't feel any purpose during those 2 weeks. I said, I got to figure something out. And so that's when I embarked on the next journey. Spent 9 months doing research, again, looking into every kind of business I could start. I wanted something with low startup costs, something I could work from anywhere, and no shipping or packaging. Those were
I was tired
those
of
were
the
my
stamps.
list. Yeah, that was my list. Driving to the post office and carrying all that. That was my list. And so after 9 months of doing that, I was studying all these people, and I woke up one day and it's like, all these people I'm studying all have one thing in common. Everybody has a big brand, a big brand on social media, a big personal brand. And it's like, I just need to build a brand. I'll figure it out from there. So then I spent about the next 8 or so months figuring out how to build a brand, and built a brand. So for those about 17, 18 months, like I made zero money. And I actually lost money because I was investing money trying to figure out, different strategies and trying to learn, paying people to teach me this, teach me that. And that was a very challenging time, just on the aspect of losing money every day. It felt like you were like just running into a wall trying to figure it out. But
Well, and for you, from what I know, and I could be off here a little bit, but it's not like you're married. So you don't have a wife at home that's able to kind of, who's helping you through this rough time mentally? Because you've had hard times through your life, whether it's sports, non-sports. But this is like real life stuff. This isn't like, I mean, this is a house, home, food, and all that. Who's helping you just mentally know that you're gonna make it and get through?
I think the competitive side of me was me telling myself, like, there's no other option. Like, you're gonna figure it out. It doesn't matter how terrible it is, or like, how many times you're gonna fail. Like, you're gonna figure it out. Like, you're just gonna show up every day. So that was a big aspect. I think my family's been, pretty supportive and helping me and encouraging me to continue to try new things and figure things out.
High school friends, any of them?
Now I'm about 5 years out from high school. It's pretty rare that I talk to them, but
That's a big point, though. This is what I'm saying. And why I knew what you were going to say is because if you think the people in high school are going to lead you to the success you want, you just have to reassess. I'm not saying don't have friends. I'm not saying, but they're not. I've told my kids since day one when they've kind of came to me about friends, I said, they're not going to pay your bills. They're not going to care if you work. They're not going to care, but they'll get you out of work and they'll be like, hey, let's go mess around or do whatever. But they're not going to care what the end result of who you are. And I don't mean it in a negative way. They're worried about their money, their house, their stuff when they get to adults. What was that? I mean, you said it plain, 5 years out and they're there.
Yeah, I mean, I still love those guys. I see them, I get excited about it. Everybody's journey is different. I know some like mega successful people where the closest people around them are their best friends from, junior high, high school, because that's who they trust. Just for me personally, I just, haven't, still love to see them, still love to chat with them. But I can't say that over the last 5 years I've spent, a ton of time with them. And I don't want to take a dump on them or anything. A lot of good guys. But as far as, pushing you on your dreams, I'm sure they're excited, as, they see people reach milestones. But, also if I was still working, for $12 an hour, $13 an hour working in school suspension, they'd probably be,
just as happy.
Yep, just as happy. So,
oh, you're sweet. You're still a Titan. Awesome. So you get through, you're going through some dark times. What's the mind change? What's the thing that flips on a switch?
So I just knew if I stayed consistent in building a brand, I'd figure a way out to monetize. I'm a big believer, if you have followers, if you have a brand, there's always an opportunity to monetize because you have a big audience to offer something to. And so I was getting good at building an audience, but I had no idea how to monetize it yet. And so along that way, in building my brand, I came across Twitter ads, and I got really good at Twitter ads, and I started to grow my brand with Twitter ads. And as I was starting to talk to people, I realized nobody else, one, knew they existed, and two, knew how to run them, or three, the capabilities of it. And so I was like, I guess I can start offering this to people. And so I did. First guy I charged like $250, gave him unlimited time on calls for a month. We spent 30 hours on calls for a month. So I think you break that down, like less than minimum wage. But I was so excited. I made my first dollar online. And then after that, he told me he would have paid me like $2,000 for it. And so I was like, So the next guy I charged $1,500, and he's like, I would have paid you 10 grand for that. So I was like, huh. And so it just kept progressing. And that was November of 22, maybe, was that first client, and been working up since then. So since then, it's been pretty incredible. Growing brands, getting to talk to people, and it's awesome.
What do you think is the hardest part of what you had to learn? Is it more of the struggle going through to get to who you are, or is it something post getting to who you are?
I think the toughest aspect is showing up every day when you're not seeing results, and just trusting that it's gonna happen. I've been, since that day, I spent those 2 weeks doing absolutely nothing, and then I started on that journey of that 9 months, and then the extra 8 or months of building. And so I've been keeping up every day. Today's, I think, like day 1086 or something. Show up every single day. Like, you just find a way to get better every day, and things figure themselves out from there.
Do you still have people that you reach out for possibly helping you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All the time, literally every single day. I mean, I'm talking to new people every day, people that if I think there's a way to help me, then I reach out to them. And one thing that I've found really interesting is some of the guys that are like winning on like massive levels, is they reach out to people that are making way less money than them, have way less followers than them. If they think there's something they can learn from them, they're like, teach me. So that's definitely a mindset of keep an open mind, try and learn what you can.
How important do you feel your parents have been in this to who J Buck is today? And, I mean, everybody has things they could say good about a parent. This is what they taught me. And they also have they also taught me what not to do. And I say that because you can either be a generational kid of theirs, or you could be one that wants to take the name and make it bigger than, because I know personally, I've gotten ridiculed back when we were younger to even move into where we move today. Oh, you think you're better? No, I just want my kids to experience better. And I can tell you, I'm blessed every day by my kids. They're 4 amazing, amazing kids because they work for it. And it's like, people don't understand how important that is, where you could teach them. We could have stayed in Bellevue. They could have played any sport they wanted to, but I knew life was bigger than that sport.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful, man. I think parents are a big aspect. You mentioned it, I think, perfectly. You learn a lot of great things from them, but I also think there's things where you learn, like, maybe I'd do that a little differently. And I think that's a good thing to go throughout life. And anybody you come across is to learn, just observe. You can learn a lot from observing, from listening. What do I like about that? What did I not like about that? How did that, make me feel, and things like that. For me, I look back to about every action that I've taken since I was probably like 17, 18, is like, it's all with that thought process of what can I do? And I've lived a great childhood, really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun, a lot of love in our house. But I look at me, about every action I've done since 17 is like, what am I doing this action for that's going to benefit, the future generations of me? So I totally agree with you there.
And when you think of the coaching part, still with it, out of it, what's J Buck do now?
It's a little different. I'm 3 years out from football, from coaching. You miss it a little bit, but yeah, I think the people is more so you miss. I mean, the X's and O's was a lot of fun, but just getting to be around kids and to see the happy, and, like, for me, the big thing that was always one of the best feelings is that light bulb moment. Every coach knows what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain it, but when a kid, has been struggling to run a play or do a certain drill, and then one day it like clicks, and you see it in the kid's eyes, and his eyes get big. That was always one of the most rewarding aspects.
See, and I like that you brought that up, because it was kind of cool, because our last year for Junior Titans, I don't remember the parent that did it, but one parent captured us with one of our players. And then we got like a picture with that player, whether we were talking to him, post something. And mine is a story I say to the day of why you don't yell at your athletes unless they're that style of player. And the players that you can yell at, the players you can do what you do. But I remember, and especially being a defensive back coach, just as much as a quarterback coach, I can't believe they got beat deep. Pull them out, blah, blah, blah. All coaches do it. There's not a single one in the world that there isn't someone on your team that does that. And I go, man, I'm not going to yell at him. So I pull him out. I say, hey, what did you see on that play? Asked him. And he tells me, and it was Smith. And he goes, and we were playing at Omaha South. And he told me, he's like, I just thought they were going to beat me short. And they tried to beat me deep. I said, all right, just stay deeper. Next play, send the kid out. The kid sits there, sits deeper, and gets his first interception ever. So it's that moment that I was talking to him, was when a parent shot the camera, and that's like, it's on my wall. Like that picture of me talking to him. And it's like that aha moment where you got him to want to do it more than just understand what you're telling it. And I think that's the part of coaching sometimes people don't get to. They're like, oh, you're the boss, you're the no, you're with them, you're trying to get them to develop to who they want to be, but you're also playing the cards safely with who it is if you want them to succeed, because they don't want you yelling at. And I yell, but come on, man, what do you see? And especially for a quarterback, what'd you see on that interception? Not easy conversation. What do you remember about those conversations with your quarterback? And then to see, I mean, I think Sam was probably one of your main players, and to see them be able to have success. I mean,
Yeah, it's a great thing, and that I really think it's all about relationships. You know, it's just having that relationship and knowing, one, how you can talk to that kid, how they're going to take it. One, for me, my personality is just not a yeller, so I really didn't have to worry about that. But one thing that I learned, you mentioned there, of asking, Jacob, what did you see? For me, Coach Mack, who was my quarterback coach, in high school for a couple of years, Coach McLaughlin, he's at the new Gretna school now, but he would always say, you'd make a bad play or whatever it was, quarterback would come off the field, throws an interception. Obviously, the quarterback knows he's not supposed to throw it to the other team. Like, he knows that. But Coach Mack would always say,
parents are yelling,
yeah,
you're not supposed to throw that.
Yeah, like, oh, thanks. And so Coach Mack was really good. His first instinct was always, what do you see? What did you see on that play? And so as a player, that was comforting, knowing like, you make a mistake, you come off the field, you're not going to get yelled at. Or, I know a lot of times we've all seen it, the AAU basketball game, dad's in the stands yelling, kids at the free throw line looking up at dad like, he makes the foul, he's looking up at dad like, am I going to be in trouble, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when a kid comes off the sideline, he knows he messes up. The kids know most of the time. The receiver knows he's not supposed to drop the ball. He knows that. But so when the kid comes off the field, they're kind of scared, in some situations. So that comforting aspect of kid coming off the field, knowing he's not going to get yelled at, and you just asking them a question, putting the power back in their hands of, well, this is what I saw, this is what went wrong. And then based on what they see, a lot of times they probably know what went wrong. They didn't see the safety or whatever it is. From there, you can tell them like, okay, sounds good. And from there, the problem might already be solved. Now, if they saw something that you saw something they didn't see, then you can coach them from there. But I think that was a really important aspect of just asking the kid.
And the reason I went into this with you is going through all the stuff that you went, how, as far as the 17 months you said of little to no money, how did what you have been taught through the coping mechanisms help you grind through to who you are on this part?
Man, I don't know. I think it just goes back to that competitive nature of wanting to win, wanting more for yourself. You go back on, wanting more for your kids. To me, that legacy aspect for yourself. But, if you're a big believer, purpose and passion, if you're working on purpose and passion, if you're working on something that's bigger than you, makes it a lot easier to keep going. If you're just working for yourself selfishly, there's, when it's hard, it's like, well, I don't know if I really want this, or maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I can, whatever, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I should just quit and, go get a job, and it'll be a lot easier. And sometimes maybe that's the case for people, but I think if you're working with purpose purpose and passion on something that's bigger than you, it becomes harder to quit because now it's just not about you. Now you're looking at this person, this person, this person, how it affects their life. And if you quit, now they're not going to see the benefit.
It's man, just to know that you're 5 years out of high school, no college degree, but life lessons have made Jay Buck who he is to today. And you've obviously grown yourself to the success. What's been the best part of it?
I think some of the best part of, there's a lot of good parts, but I think some of the best part is like when you see the success, kind of like the light bulb moment for the kids when you're coaching, but when you have that light bulb moment for yourself in your career of like, you went through all this stuff, you tried all these things, and it's like, then something clicks and you're like, wow, okay, we're going somewhere. This is nice. So I think that aspect's nice. There's a lot of just freedom to, kind of live life on your terms, which is really a blessing. You're a great example of that. You're kind of like Snoop Dogg of Omaha with all your side quests.
Got it.
I mean, Snoop Dogg's out here at the Olympics. I mean, you're doing about everything too. So
I try, man.
I think that level of the freedom of, control of your life and that joy, I think is really important to go
work
after.
hard to play hard. That's for sure. People always go, I don't understand how you have go on these trips or you do this thing. And the past 8 years of owning a business has done amazing things, because if you need it, you go get it. If I need to go make money, I'll go get it. There's nothing going to hold me back. Whether I'm working with people, I do have a crew. I've had the same crew for over 6 years, or whether I'm by myself, I have the equipment to do it. It doesn't change. When you look at the current scheme of like NIL and stuff like that, you talked brand. Is that part of what you do and who you are? Is that people that you can reach out? I say that because I'm hoping if there's one athlete, one parent that might not have someone they can trust in that aspect, is that something that you and your new company does?
Yeah. So I specifically with the athletes, I haven't quite worked with them yet. When I was doing the sports memorabilia, I think I got out like the first NIL started, I think the year after that last year when I was getting out of that. So I haven't dabbled with that a lot. What I do can work with about every niche, which is great. A lot of things, how much a NIL athlete needs it, maybe for a marketing perspective. I know if you look on, I think it's like On3, maybe it tells you like a NIL evaluation of, like how much Bronny James Jr. is, getting or something like that, which is awesome. Great for those guys. So something like that where they're getting paid on social media posts, a lot of that comes down to how do you value a social media post? Well, a lot of times you value it off of two things. One, follower count. Two, engagement on the post. So that's definitely something I can help NIL athletes with. As far as the recruiting side, probably doesn't help you as much on the recruiting side. Maybe like, we could boost like a huddle highlight and, get it out to more people. But for that, I mean, something like that, you're better off just sending a bunch of emails to coaches. But on the NIL side, as far as boosting social media accounts, we can definitely do that. We've generated over 2.5 million followers for clients, billion plus impressions over last year, broad range of niches. So can definitely do it.
All right. How can they find you and how can they reach you? What's that stuff? Contact info.
Yeah. That's a good question. I have my socials and stuff, but my name's not on it. And the reason for that is I always wanted people to find me and find the content for enjoying the content and finding me instead of, following me because of Jared. So for that
Weird.
reason, yeah.
Someone keeps telling me, they're like, you should have done Wired Access Kendall Wickwire Sr. It has a ring to it.
Just different perspectives.
Yes.
Some people like it different, but I could put my email on there. It's 12 Jared Buckley, 12 JARED BUCKLEY at gmail.com. We could do something there. And then, my socials, those have my company name on it. They don't have my personal name, but like I said, I keep those. I want people to find it organically.
All right. I ain't mad at that. Well, once again, this is another episode of Wired Axcess Podcast, which is a Hurrdat Sports production. Remember, you never know who we talk to. If you like, share, give this information to someone you might know. They might be in a stage of life, maybe not 17 months of down and out or feeling that way, but they might know that they're 1 month in to an experience that they're really trying to get to and they can't get there. Let them know if they want it with passion and pride, they will get what they want. But you got to go for it. Once again, Jared Buckley, DJ K-Dub Omaha. We'll see you next time.